Man, let me tell you about my first day at Evergreen Academy. Felt like stepping onto another planet. Swear to God. Connecticut? More like Connecty cold, and I ain't just talking about the weather. That massive stone building, all ivy and old money, looked like something out of a movie where the rich kids scheme. My mom, Rosa, squeezed my shoulder so tight her knuckles went white. "Head high. Jamal Davis," she whispered, her voice thick with that Louisiana drawl she tries to hide up here. Remember the oak. But all I felt was the cheap fabric of my thrift store blazer scratching my neck, sticking out like a weed in a rose garden. These kids? Designer everything. Backpacks cost more than our rent back in Southbridge. And the looks? Man, it wasn't just curiosity. It was sizing up, calculating, like I was some equation they couldn't solve, and maybe didn't want to. A low murmur followed us down the hall. Southbridge? Isn't that? Scholarship case, probably. The words weren't shouted, just dropped like stones into quiet water. But they hit hard. I kept my eyes on the polished floor, seeing my own reflection looking small and lost. Wishing Grandpa Elijah was here with his steady hand and quiet wisdom. Then came math. Period 1. My supposed strength. Professor Thorne's classroom felt like a tomb. All dark wood and stern portraits of old white dudes who probably invented misery. Thorne himself? Tall, ramrod straight, eyes like ice chips behind wire-rimmed glasses. He didn't even say hello, just launched into roll call. When he hit, "Davis, Jamal," he paused, looked up. That look, it wasn't welcoming. It was an appraisal, and I flunked it instantly. "Ah," he said, that single syllable dripping with something colder than Connecticut winter. Our newcomer. A few snickers rippled from Chloe Whitaker's corner. Her smile was all perfect teeth and pure poison. My palms started sweating. Thorne didn't waste time. He slapped a beast of a calculus problem on the board, symbols dancing like angry ants. "Davis," he barked, pointer tapping the nightmare equation. "Since you're here on merit, enlighten us. Solve it." It wasn't an invitation. It was a trap. A challenge thrown down to see the Southbridge kids squirm. The whole class froze, heads swiveling towards me. Chloe leaned back, arms crossed, smirking like she already had my F framed. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Focus, Jamal. Remember the river," Grandpa said. "Visualize the flow." I stood up, legs shaky, walked to the board. The chalk felt alien in my hand. Instead of diving into formulas, I started sketching, almost without thinking. A winding river, a bend, currents, trying to map the problem's logic, not just its symbols. I was lost in the flow for a second. Grandpa's voice in my head. "Davis." Thorne's voice cracked like a whip. I jumped, chalk snapping. "What in blazes is this?" He gestured dismissively at my half-drawn river. "This is advanced calculus, not finger-painting hour. We deal in rigor, precision, proof, not childish scribbles." His laugh was short, harsh. "Did they teach you to solve equations with crayons down in Louisiana?" That did it. A wave of hot shame washed over me, followed by a cold, hard knot of anger in my gut. Chloe's laugh, sharp and clear, cut through the silence. A few others joined in, muffled but unmistakable. The sound echoed in my ears, louder than Thorne's voice. "Childish. Scribbles. Louisiana." I clenched the broken chalk, dust stinging my palm. My knuckles were white. I wanted to disappear, to yell back. But Mom's face flashed in my mind. The sacrifices, the late nights. I swallowed hard, the taste of humiliation metallic on my tongue. I just stood there, frozen, staring at my stupid river drawing on the board while Thorne sneered and wrote a big, fat F next to my name in his gradebook without letting me speak another word. That F wasn't just for the problem. It felt like a stamp on my forehead. Failure. Foreigner. Fraud. The rest of the day was a blur of avoiding eyes and whispered comments. Did you see him freeze? Thorne destroyed him. Told you he didn't belong. Even the air in the hallways felt thick with judgment. Lunch? Forget it. I found a deserted corner near the janitor's closet, chewing tasteless cafeteria food that felt like sawdust. That's when the loneliness really hit. Not just being alone, being unseen, except as the punchline. I thought about Southbridge, the messy warmth of Ms. Perez's bodega, the sound of Mr. Henderson's saxophone drifting from his window, the giant, gnarled oak tree in Grandpa's yard where he taught me that math wasn't just numbers. It was patterns in the leaves, the flow of the creek, the strength of roots. Here, roots felt impossible. I was just adrift. After school, I didn't go straight home. I walked. Ended up in the tiny patch of dirt behind our rented duplex in Southbridge. Kneeling, I touched the soil. Rough, real. Not Evergreen's polished perfection. Then I saw it. My little oak sapling. The one I planted from an acorn Grandpa gave me right before we moved north. Take a piece of home, Jamal, he'd said. His voice raspy but strong. Watch it grow. Remember where your strength comes from. It looked so fragile against the city backdrop. But it was green. Alive. Fighting. I pulled out his old notebook. The leather cover worn soft. That first page, his neat, looping script. The knowledge tree method. When thinking breaks free from the page. Below it, he'd sketched a simple tree. Roots labeled foundations, trunk, core logic, branches, explorations, leaves, solutions. Flipping through, I saw his notes. Problems solved not just with numbers, but with diagrams, stories, connections to the world. It wasn't scribbles. It was genius. His genius. Ignored maybe, by Thorne's world, but real. I opened my own notebook to the problem Thorne gave me. This time, instead of panic, I felt a spark. Anger? Sure. But also, defiance. I grabbed a pencil. Not to write formulas. To draw. I sketched Thorne's beast of a problem as a massive, tangled oak. Gnarled roots for the complex variables. Thick trunk for the main equation. Branches splitting into different solution paths. Some dead ends. Others promising. One branch, thin but strong, seemed to reach for the answer, but was blocked by a thick knot labeled Thorne's assumption. My heart pounded. Was that it? Was that the flaw Grandpa taught me to look for? That knot wasn't part of the problem's true structure. It was an extra constraint. Unnecessary. Don't just solve the problem on the page, Jamal. Grandpa's voice echoed. Solve the problem they give you. See the whole tree. Sitting there on the gritty Southbridge dirt, staring at my sapling fighting to grow, then back at the tangled oak in my notebook, a fierce determination settled over me, quiet but solid. Okay, Evergreen. Okay, Professor Thorne. You think you know what math looks like? You think you know what I look like? Watch this sapling grow. Watch me redraw the map. This fight? It just got roots. Deep ones. And I ain't backing down. Not for 1 second. That F? That was just the starting gun.
Man, that F from Thorne, it stung. Bad. Like salt in a fresh wound everyone at Evergreen seemed happy to poke. Chloe and her crew, they made sure I never forgot it. Whispers followed me. Dumb luck scholarship. Back to Southbridge soon. Even grabbing lunch felt like running a gauntlet. Thorne doubled down, hitting us with problem sets that looked like they were written in alien code. Swear, I saw Chloe smirk every time he dropped another bomb. She knew he was gunning for me, trying to make me crack before the state math championship. That golden ticket scholarship? Yeah, Thorne made it clear it was her birthright. Me? I was just the charity case taking up space. But here's the thing about getting kicked when you're down. Either you stay down, or you find something deep inside to push back. For me, it was Grandpa Elijah's notebook, that little oak sapling fighting in the dirt outside our duplex, and Mom's tired eyes when she got home from another double shift. Mijo, she'd say, handing me a plate of her killer arroz con pollo. Árbol que nace torcido, jamás su tronco endereza. A tree born bent, its trunk never straightens. Nah, Mom, this tree was going to grow straight up, right through Evergreen's fancy ceiling. So, nights became my battlefield. After Mom crashed, I'd sneak into the tiny kitchen, Grandpa's notebook open, my own filling up with crazy-looking trees. Equations weren't just symbols anymore. They were ecosystems. That beastly calculus problem Thorne humiliated me with, I mapped it like a bayou roots, sucking up variables. The main channel, the core equation. Tributaries branching into different solution paths. And that knot Thorne called rigor. It was a damn beaver dam blocking the flow. Seeing it drawn out, man, it clicked. The textbook solution forced you to go around it, making everything messy. Grandpa's way showed you could dislodge it if you saw the whole river system. That night, I felt it, a spark, hot and bright, cutting through the shame. This wasn't scribbles. This was seeing. I started testing it. Thorne's impossible homework? I'd crack it with a tree diagram hidden under the proper work I turned in. Marcus, the only other brother in AP Calc, caught me once after class. "Yo, Davis, what you drawing? Looks wild." I almost slammed the notebook shut, expecting another joke, but his eyes, curious, not cruel. So I showed him, explained the river, the dam. His eyebrows shot up. Whoa, that actually makes sense. Thorne would have a cow. We shared a look, the look of outsiders knowing a secret. He started slipping me extra practice problems, real head scratchers. For the tree, he'd whisper, our secret weapon. Then came the big one, a theorem in Thorne's sacred textbook, used for a proof. Something felt off, like a sour note in Mom's salsa. Using my tree, tracing the logic branch by branch, bam, a tiny flaw, like a weak limb ready to snap. It wasn't world-ending, but it meant the proof wasn't universal, just worked under specific conditions Thorne never mentioned. My heart raced. This was it, my shot. But confronting Thorne? That was suicide. Chance came during another public execution, class. Thorne put up a monster derivative problem. Chloe jumped in, got stuck halfway. Panic flashed in her eyes. Thorne scanned the room. Davis, since Miss Whitaker seems fatigued. The dismissal in his voice. I walked up, chalk in hand, ignored the formulas screaming in my head, drew fast. The function as a twisting vine, the derivative as the rate it grew thorns at different points. I started talking, pointing to the sketch. See, if you visualize the growth rate here, it spikes before the inflection point the textbook method flags, because Thorne cut me off like a guillotine. Enough! This is not art class. Are you incapable of using standard notation? Must everything be reduced to folk art? The venom in folk art stung. Chloe snorted. The class held its breath. I looked him dead in the eye, the anger from that first day boiling up, channeled into pure, cold steel in my voice. It's not folk art, Professor. It's clarity. And this clarity shows why the auxiliary condition in Theorem 4.3 is sometimes redundant, creating unnecessary complexity. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Thorne's face went purple. Redundant. You dare question established texts. Get down. Now. I walked back to my seat, my legs shaking but my head high. Chloe's smirk was gone, replaced by something colder. Shock. Fear. Didn't matter. The gauntlet was thrown. Southbridge wasn't backing down. That championship. It wasn't just a contest anymore. It was war. And I had the trees on my side. State Math Championship Day felt like walking into the Coliseum. Spotlights, buzzing crowds, judges with faces like stone idols. Evergreen's section was a sea of blue blazers and smug expectation, Thorne front and center, polishing his glasses like a general prepping for victory. Chloe sat poised, her pencil sharpened to a lethal point. Me? I had Grandpa's notebook tucked in my bag like a talisman, and the scent of Mom's cafe con leche clinging to my shirt, my real armor. The problem hit like a freight train, combinatorial chaos, permutations, constraints, exceptions, a tangled forest of logic. Chloe dived in, scribbling furiously, her brow furrowed. Others groaned. Thorne paced, shooting me glances that said, "See? Told you." I closed my eyes, breathed. Southbridge, the oak, the river. See the forest, Jamal, not just the trees. I opened my notebook to a blank page, not for formulas, for a tree, a massive combinatorial oak, roots equal sign core constraints, trunk equal sign the main selection path, branches exploding into every possible choice permutation, some thick with possibility, others thin dead ends. Leaves equal sign potential solutions. My pencil flew, mapping the madness. I saw patterns emerge, symmetries Thorne's rigid methods would miss. And then, there. A thick, gnarled branch labeled Standard Path led to a dense thicket, but a smaller, sturdier branch, almost hidden, labeled Direct Enumeration via Constraint Reevaluation, shot up cleaner, clearer. It bypassed a whole mess of calculations the standard method forced. That was the key. It was elegant, simple. Grandpa would have loved it. I was shading a leaf, the solution crystal clear in my mind's eye, when a shadow fell over my paper. Thorne, his voice, loud, dripping with theatrical disdain for the judges to hear. "Mr. Davis, this is a mathematics competition, not a doodling contest. Kindly focus on solving the problem with appropriate rigor or surrender your seat." Chloe looked up, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. The Evergreen section tittered. The judges glanced over, frowning. Something snapped. Not fear, not anger. A calm, fierce certainty. I stood up. Not shaky this time. Solid, like the oak. "Professor Thorne," my voice cut through the murmur, clear and strong. "This is the solution. The combinatorial oak method doesn't just provide the answer. It reveals three equally valid solution paths and—" I paused, locking eyes with him, the moment stretching. "It exposes a critical flaw in the problem's design regarding boundary constraints." Silence. Absolute pin-drop silence. Thorne choked. "F flaw. Preposterous. This problem was vetted by—" I pointed to my tree, my finger steady. "The problem assumes indirect selection path B is always required when choosing A and C. But here," I tapped a specific, thin branch connecting A and C directly, bypassing B entirely, under the primary constraint set without the unstated auxiliary assumption you always emphasize, the one that trips people up. A direct selection is possible and valid. This creates an entirely new subset of solutions the problem ignores, making the initial premise incomplete." I turned to the stunned judges. "The flaw mirrors the redundant condition I identified in Theorem 4.3 of our textbook weeks ago. This method makes it visible." I held up my notebook, the intricate tree diagram undeniable. Chaos. Murmurs exploded. The lead judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, practically leaped from her seat. She strode over, peering at my notebook, then at the problem, then back. She conferred rapidly with the others. Thorne stood frozen, mouth agape, the color draining from his face completely. He looked like a deflated balloon. Chloe stared at my tree, then at me. her pen forgotten, her expression pure, unvarnished shock, the kind that cracks a carefully built facade of superiority. The Evergreen section wasn't smirking anymore. They were stunned, silent, watching the Southbridge charity case rewrite the rules in real time. The judge finally looked up, a slow smile spreading across her face. She didn't say a word. She just gave me a single, firm nod. That nod echoed louder than any applause. Thorne's empire of rigid rigor had just crumbled, and Jamal Davis, he was just getting started. Winning the state championship felt like surfing a tsunami of disbelief and pure, unadulterated Southbridge pride. The trophy was heavy, sure, but the weight of Thorne's stunned silence? Priceless. Headlines? Oh yeah. Southbridge sophomore stuns math world with tree logic. Evergreen's prodigy toppled by doodling genius. Back at school, it was like walking into a different dimension. Whispers now held awe, not scorn. Kids who never looked my way suddenly wanted to know about the tree thing. Chloe? She avoided me like the plague, her usual squad looking uncomfortable. The sting of her defeat was real, mixed with something else, maybe the first crack in her perfect, privileged armor. Saw her once, staring at the trophy case where my name was now engraved, her expression unreadable. Not hate. Not anymore. Just contemplation. Maybe a sliver of respect buried deep. Thorne? He became a ghost. Missed classes. Rumors flew. Stress leave. Yeah, right. The hammer dropped when the state math board issued a formal notice. They verified the flaw in the competition problem and confirmed the redundancy in Theorem 4.3. Suggested reviewing alternative pedagogical approaches. Ouch. His precious textbook, his gospel, had a crack. Evergreen's ivory tower had a serious chip in it. Then, one rainy Tuesday after school, I was packing up when a shadow filled the doorway. Thorne. He looked diminished, smaller. The icy glare was gone, replaced by a hollow exhaustion. His usually crisp shirt was rumpled. "Davis," he rasped, voice raw. "Jamal." He cleared his throat, struggling. "I owe you an apology. Several, in fact." He looked away, out the window at the dreary sky. "What you did, at the competition, and before," he swallowed hard. "It forced me to confront something, ugly, in myself." He met my eyes, his own filled with a raw shame I never thought I'd see. I mistook rigidity for rigor, tradition for truth. I dismissed brilliance because it wore a different skin and spoke a different language. He gestured weakly towards my open notebook where a half-finished tree diagram sprawled. "Your grandfather's method, it's not scribbles. It's profound, elegant. I was too blind, too arrogant to see it." He took a shaky breath. "I failed you, as a teacher, as a decent human being. Is there any chance an old fool can learn a new way to see?" The anger I'd carried. It didn't vanish, but seeing him, broken and genuinely remorseful, it shifted. Grandpa Elijah always said holding on to hate was like drinking poison. "Professor," I said, my voice steady, "math is about finding truth. Sometimes the path isn't straight." I paused. "The tree has many branches. I'm willing to share them, if you're willing to learn." His shoulders slumped, not in defeat, but relief. A single tear tracked down his cheek. He just nodded, unable to speak. Principal Reed? She became my biggest advocate, called Mom personally, apologized for the school's environmental shortcomings, announced a pilot program, Project Root and Branch, exploring visual and conceptual learning methods in math, starting with, you guessed it, variations of the knowledge tree. Guess who's the lead student consultant? Yeah, life got busy, real busy. But the best moment? Walking into Thorne's classroom the next week, he was at the board, drawing a shaky, simple tree diagram for a basic algebra problem. He saw me, flushed, but didn't stop. "Mr. Davis," he announced to the class, his voice regaining a sliver of its old authority but softer, "is demonstrating an alternative approach today. Pay attention. It might just change how you see things." Chloe watched, her expression complex. No smirk, just observation. Maybe, just maybe, the roots were taking hold, even in Evergreen's stony soil. Graduation day, sun blazing, Evergreen's pristine lawn packed. The air hummed with that mix of excitement and nerves. When they called Jamal Davis valedictorian, the roar from the Southbridge section, Mom, Miss Perez, Mr. Henderson blasting a quick riff on his sax from the back, Marcus hollering, almost blew the tent off. Walking up, the weight of the honor cord felt good, but the weight of everyone's eyes felt right, earned. I adjusted the mic, looked out, saw Mom beaming, tears streaming, saw Thorne sitting stiffly beside Principal Reed, but he gave a small, solemn nod. Saw Chloe, clapping politely, a thoughtful look on her face. Saw the giant oak tree I'd planted 3 years ago, visible beyond the gates, now strong and reaching for the sky. 3 years ago, I started, my voice echoing slightly. I walked onto this campus feeling like a weed in a rose garden, told my way of thinking, rooted in stories, in rivers, in the strength of an oak back home, was childish. Scribbles. Wrong. I paused, letting it hang. They told me to bend, to fit the mold, to forget Southbridge. I held up Grandpa Elijah's worn notebook. But this taught me something different. A tree that bends too much breaks. True strength comes from sinking your roots deep into who you are, your heritage, your community, your unique way of seeing the world. I pointed towards Southbridge. My roots are in the resilience of my mommy working doubles, in the wisdom of my Abuelo whispering math secrets through stories, in the rhythms of Mr. Henderson's sax, in the warmth of Miss Perez's pastelitos. That's my foundation. Evergreen taught me rigor, yes, but Southbridge taught me resilience, taught me that brilliance isn't confined to a zip code or a skin tone. It blooms everywhere, sometimes in languages you just need to learn to hear. I looked directly at the underclassmen. Don't let anyone tell you your way of thinking is invalid because it looks different. Don't let them prune your branches before you bloom. Your perspective, your story, your raíces, your roots are your superpower. Embrace them, nourish them. Let them make you strong, because the world doesn't need more people trying to be the same perfect rose. It needs mighty oaks. It needs bayous teeming with unique life. It needs you. Be bold. Be different. Grow your own tree. Change the landscape. The applause was thunderous, rolling over me like a warm wave. Thorne clapped, slow and deliberate, his eyes suspiciously bright. Mom was sobbing openly, yelling, "Ese es mi mijo." Reed beamed. Later, under the shade of my oak tree in Southbridge, Mom hugged me tight. "Tu abuelo," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "He'd be so proud, Jamal, tan orgulloso." I placed my hand on the rough bark, feeling the sun-warmed strength. The saxophone drifted from a nearby window, mixing with kids laughing, the distant hum of the city. It wasn't Evergreen's quiet perfection. It was loud, messy, vibrant, alive, exactly like the math in Grandpa's notebook, exactly like me. I looked up through the leaves at the wide-open sky. The starting gun had fired years ago. Now, the whole forest awaited, and this Southbridge oak was ready to grow. Bring on the wind. Jamal's story isn't just about overcoming prejudice. It's a timeless reminder that true strength grows from embracing who you are. Life often pressures us to fit into molds, silencing our unique voices in toxic relationships or systemic biases. But Jamal teaches us, your worth isn't defined by others' expectations. It lives in the courage to stand firm in your truth, your roots, your story, your irreplaceable perspective. The deepest lesson? Integrity is quiet rebellion. When Jamal refused to abandon his grandfather's knowledge tree, he wasn't being stubborn. He honored his legacy and trusted his own genius. His journey shows that breaking toxic silence isn't about loud anger. It's about persistent, creative conviction. By confronting injustice with clarity and grace, he didn't tear others down. He rebuilt bridges. Even Professor Thorne's transformation reminds us, walls of prejudice crumble when met with unwavering dignity. This story also redefines diversity as resilience. The world doesn't need more identical roses. It needs mighty oaks, wild bayous, and untamed voices. Real fairness begins when we see, value, and make space for differences. Your turn to grow. Reflect. Have you ever underestimated your own roots? Are there biases in yourself or your world worth challenging? Share your story. How did Jamal's journey resonate with you? Have you faced or witnessed a moment where authenticity triumphed over prejudice? Comment below. Your words might ignite someone's courage. Stay inspired. If this story moved you, tap like to spread its message and subscribe for more thought-provoking journeys into the human spirit. We're here to explore life's hidden depths together. May you find peace in your own strength and the courage to reach toward the light, no matter which way the wind blows. Keep growing, friend.